You've probably heard that riding a motorcycle makes a man feel free. Wind in his face, open road, all that. But that explanation barely scratches the surface, and honestly, it's the boring version of the story. Psychologists have spent years studying what actually happens inside a man's brain and body every time he swings a leg over a bike, and the real answer has almost nothing to do with freedom at all. It has to do with identity, fear, focus, brotherhood, and a psychological process most men go through constantly, but could never actually name if you ask them. One of these reasons is so tied to manhood itself that anthropologists have compared it directly to ceremonies that have existed for thousands of years, long before engines or even wheels ever existed. Stick around, because Reason 7 is going to change how you see every single rider you pass on the highway from now on. Reason 1. The flow state. Here's something most men don't realize. The moment a rider pulls onto the road, his brain shifts into what psychologists call a flow state, the same mental zone elite athletes chase for years and rarely find on command. In flow, self-consciousness disappears completely. The constant background noise of self-doubt, distraction, and overthinking just switches off because the brain physically cannot spare the processing power to worry about anything that isn't directly in front of the wheel. That's not a coincidence. Flow only shows up when a task demands total focus and carries real consequences if you look away for even a second. Scrolling a phone doesn't do it. Watching television doesn't do it. Even hitting the gym rarely does it, because your body can go through the motions there while your mind wanders somewhere else entirely. Riding does it almost instantly, which is why so many men describe getting on a bike as the only time their mind actually goes quiet, even for just an hour, in a way nothing else in their week comes close to matching. Reason 2. Fear rewired into fuel. Now here's the part almost nobody talks about. Fear, in small controlled doses, isn't something the male brain avoids, it's something it's actually wired to seek out. Every time a rider leans into a corner or accelerates onto a highway, his amygdala fires exactly like it would during a real threat. But because the danger is chosen, not forced on him, his brain interprets it completely differently. Instead of panic, he gets a hit of dopamine and adrenaline, the same chemical cocktail behind competitive sports and calculated risk-taking. Psychologists call this pattern sensation-seeking, and men consistently score higher on it than women across nearly every study ever run on the subject, regardless of age, culture, or background. Riding isn't reckless in this context, even though it looks that way from the outside to anyone who's never done it. It's a man's nervous system doing exactly what it evolved to want, on purpose, with his hands on the controls the entire time, instead of leaving it up to chance. Reason 3. Proof under pressure. This next one explains why so many men say riding changed how they see themselves, not just how they feel in the moment. Learning to ride is hard, and it doesn't come easy for almost anyone. Stalling, wobbling, dropping the bike in a parking lot in front of everyone, it's humbling before it's ever fun. But every skill a rider masters, shifting smoothly, taking a corner clean, reading traffic 3 seconds ahead of everyone else, builds something psychologists call self-efficacy, which is your brain's internal proof that you are capable under pressure. That proof doesn't stay parked in the garage. Men who build self-efficacy on a bike carry that same steady confidence into job interviews, arguments, and hard conversations because their brain has already logged real evidence, not just a pep talk in the mirror, that they can perform when it actually matters and the pressure is real. Reason 4. A modern rite of passage. Anthropologists have a name for what riding does for a man's sense of identity, and it's far older than motorcycles themselves. It's called a rite of passage, a structured challenge that marks the difference between who a man was and who he becomes after facing something difficult and dangerous entirely on his own. For centuries, cultures built these moments on purpose, because without them, men tend to drift without a clear sense of who they are or what they're capable of. Modern life quietly deleted most of these rituals somewhere along the way. Riding accidentally brought one back without anyone really planning it that way. Every first solo ride, every long trip taken alone with no one to bail him out if something goes wrong, functions the same way an ancient trial once did. Proof earned physically instead of just claimed that a man faced something real and came out the other side changed for good. Reason 5. Brotherhood through shared risk. Here's a twist most videos completely skip. Riding looks like a solo activity, but psychologically it's one of the strongest bonding tools men have left in modern life. Shared risk is one of the fastest ways humans build trust, faster than shared meals, faster than small talk, because your brain registers someone who faced danger beside you as someone worth trusting completely and immediately. That's why riders who barely know each other will stop on the highway to help a stranger with a flat tire. No hesitation, no questions asked. Motorcycle clubs aren't really about the bikes underneath all of it, even though that's what it looks like from the outside looking in. They're about men rebuilding a kind of brotherhood that used to happen naturally, through hunting parties, work crews, and military units, and has mostly disappeared from modern male life over the last few decades as those spaces quietly vanished. Reason 6. The rhythm therapists use on purpose. This next one connects to something therapists actually use on purpose in a clinical setting. Riding forces constant rhythmic left-right movement, countersteering, shifting your weight, working the controls on both sides of your body in a steady back-and-forth pattern, mile after mile without stopping. That specific rhythm has a name in psychology: bilateral stimulation, and it's the same underlying mechanism behind a therapy called EMDR, where alternating movement helps the brain process stress and difficult emotion more efficiently. Nobody's saying a motorcycle replaces therapy, and if you're genuinely struggling, please talk to a real professional instead of a bike, but the structural pattern lines up almost exactly, which may be part of why so many men come back from a hard, long ride saying their head finally feels clear for the first time in weeks, even if they couldn't explain why if you asked them directly. If any of this is hitting home so far, go ahead and hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps this video reach more men who actually need to hear it. And we've still got the biggest reason left, the one that ties everything else together, so stick with me for just a couple more minutes. Reason 7. Controlled stress, real training. Here's the myth that ties every other reason together. Everyone assumes riding works because it's relaxing, the same way a nap or a lazy Sunday afternoon relaxes you. It isn't, and that's the whole point people miss. Riding is a deliberate dose of stress, chosen on purpose, and that difference changes everything. Psychologists split stress into categories: distress, the harmful kind that slowly wears a man down; eustress, the exciting kind that sharpens focus and performance; and susstress, a lesser-known category meaning not enough stress at all, now linked directly to boredom, apathy, and men quietly losing their edge without noticing. Riding pushes a man straight into eustress on purpose, heart rate up, focus locked in, real consequences sitting right there on the line. This lines up with something psychologists call stress inoculation, the same basic principle behind a vaccine. A small, controlled, manageable dose of pressure trains the nervous system to handle much bigger pressure later without breaking under it. Every single ride is practice, whether he thinks of it that way or not. Deadlines, conflict, hard decisions, all of it gets a little more manageable afterward, because a man's system has already proven, under real conditions and with real stakes, that it can hold steady under something real. So no, it was never just wind and freedom, and it was never just about looking good on two wheels rolling down the highway. It's a flow state most men never find anywhere else in their entire week, no matter how hard they look for it. It's fear rewired into fuel instead of panic. It's proof of competence a man carries off the bike and into the rest of his life everywhere he goes, whether he's aware of it or not. It's a modern rite of passage in a world that quietly stopped offering them to men altogether. It's brotherhood rebuilt through shared risk instead of small talk over drinks. It's a rhythmic pattern that mirrors real trauma therapy used in hospitals every single day. And underneath all of it, it's controlled stress, training a man's whole nervous system for everything else life is going to throw at him down the road. Next time someone asks why you ride, you don't have to say it's just fun anymore. You've got 7 real psychology-backed reasons, and now so does every man watching this video.